What's going on, guys? Crooked here from Off the Brink TV, bringing you another video. This time I definitely wanted to update you guys on how I'm making out with my Demon Hunter in terms of the Kridershot build and my gear. So a couple of changes that I've made, and I want to go through them with you, including the gear upgrades, which I think is the most important. I've learned a lot, and I want to be able to share that information with you to maybe help you on your hunting and getting the gear centered around the Kridershot, or even just the burst build that I use. And I know it's pretty popular among demon hunters. However, I know a lot of people are using this build as glass cannon, and like I told you guys, I refuse to go glass cannon. And as of late, I've been doing around Torment 4 and 5 without a problem with a party. I could solo Torment 4, however I have to be on my toes even though I'm not glass cannon, which is how I don't understand how people even go that route and expect to be efficient. One of the big reasons I do not like glass cannon, I'll give you an example. I was just in a Torment 4 with two other demon hunters that were glass cannon, and they died literally every pack, and that's not the way I want to play. I don't care if you think you're amazing and you're better. If you're glass cannon, even if you're really good, shit happens. I don't want to have zero room for error, and that's exactly what toughness does, is it leaves you that little room for error, and that's what I like. Demon hunters are squishy to begin with, so giving myself some toughness while still maintaining good damage, not only is it possible, but it gives you, like I said, that room for error. So first, we'll go through the ability changes that I made. I switched up my fire elemental arrow to frost arrow. I found that while I was soloing some of the torments, that this is much more efficient. Even though I have more fire damage in with my gear, I feel like going with frost arrow and obviously going with color the weak or cull the weak, it's going to give you a lot more control because the minions are not all over the place. They're not being feared everywhere. And plus, you get that 20% perk on top of it every time you throw that cluster arrow. And what I like about Cull the Weak is that it's against slowed enemies. So even if you're rolling with a wizard buddy or someone who's slowing down the mobs, you'll still be able to get that 20% buff across all your abilities. Now, in terms of gear, first I want to start with a piece of gear that's pretty easy for everyone to get. And I feel like it's extremely helpful with the Demon Hunter, especially because of the legendary affix, and that's the Reaper's Wraps. They're really easy to get. I don't know if Blizzard expected them to be pretty much best in slot, but I think they're best in slot. You can get them by getting the plan, which I think is a guaranteed drop off Maphiel, and then you get the mats off Maphiel. And it's really easy to do because you could just farm it on normal or however other difficulty you feel comfortable doing it. I just did it on normal and just kept on doing him over and over again. I got about 2 or 3 mats. I didn't get the greatest roll. Obviously, I would have liked fire damage, but I got cold skill, so it doesn't completely go to waste. So, because of my elemental arrow, I do have these braces here that give me 19% fire damage and crit hit chance 6% with some nice movement speed. And so I could take that out of Paragon because I do like having cat movement speed. However, I find that the health globes restoring 27% or 30%, I think is the cap, of your resource is awesome, especially when it's accompanied by Blood Vengeance. And you know that I'm using Blood Vengeance, Cull the Weak, Archery, and Ambush at the moment. I do switch off some of the passives once in a while. However, that's basically what I go with when I roll with most people, especially some friends. Group, it's great for groups, it's great for soloing. Either way, those are usually my my go-to passives. Now, my damage is 800k, you know, about 3,000 shy of 800k. I could push this to about 810,000 with some Paragon points, and I could push it to even more with these bracers and another belt as well, which I do use in groups, and I'll show you in a minute. However, we all know that sheet damage really isn't the greatest portrayal of how much damage you're actually doing. I'm actually doing against elites elemental damage well over 1.1 million. I'm close to 1 million in terms of just regular damage, and when you also add up all the percentage that I have for cluster arrow. For example, I have another 10% of my cluster arrow on my boots and some other items. You know, that stuff is not going to be in the sheet damage, which is also adding to my damage. So even though I'm doing only 800k sheet, or you see only 800k sheet, I really am doing quite a lot of damage, quite a lot more damage than that if you actually check out my profile on Diablo Progress. So one big thing, don't be a sheet damage whore. You know, this isn't the greatest portrayal. Go for the elements and the ability percentage damage affixes that you can get on certain items. They really, really do make a huge difference, a noticeable difference in gameplay. It's right off the bat. As soon as you get like a 90% of your fire damage or something like that, you'll be able to start seeing the crit numbers go really, really high, and it's really fun. I want to talk a little bit about where I'm getting my toughness though. I was lucky enough to go ahead and farm the Ring of a Royal Grander and I did get a decent roll, and I happened to just re-roll for critical hit damage finally. So obviously not the trifecta on this ring. I would love the trifecta, but given the fact that the ring is pretty rare to get with to begin with, and you can actually roll a different main stat than your class. I know a buddy of mine got intelligence when he was strength, and another one got dexterity when he was strength and intelligence or whatever. So for me to get 2 out of the 3 that I want on here, and that weapon damage is nice. You know, it's about equal to about 5% attack speed in terms of sheet damage, but obviously crit hit chance would have been ideal. However, I will get into crit chance in just a minute, about when you should not be going for crit hit chance, and that's really important, something I learned actually rather recently. So obviously didn't get the trifecta here. And another great ring that I had drop was the Stone of Jordan. This is obviously new gear. I didn't have this in my last video. I was able to roll the crit hit chance on this ring, and I have the increased damage against the leech 25%. Obviously, I would have liked to have critical hit damage or attack speed instead of the weapon damage on the top. However, again, still waiting to get a better drop of Stone of Jordan, which can drop pretty much anywhere. I think I found this in normal mode, farming for ascended gear to craft this Ashira's pace or whatever. So you can get this anywhere. I'm sure you probably found it already, but to get a trifecta obviously is still very rare, but liking the fact that I do have some pretty decent stats on it. 25% against elites. The cap on this is 30%. As you can see, this ring is amazing. Because let's face it, if you have some pretty decent damage, white mobs aren't your priority. You're going to want the most damage against elites, and 25 to 30% against elites is absolutely insane. Definitely best in slot ring in my mind. That's why I'm keeping it on. I do have a yellow ring that's trifecta, but this just takes the cake, and there's no point of constantly swapping every elite pack. Come on, for what, a couple of extra sheet damage? No way. I was lucky enough to get some max discipline on this as a secondary, which is always a plus. Another great drop that I got was the Mage Fist gloves, and this obviously gave me the 17% fire skills, which is awesome. Now I have the Marauders gloves with the trifecta as well. As you can see here, I did get the trifecta on this, re-rolled into it, which was an awesome roll as well. I do have the Marauder gloves with the trifecta, but I'm waiting to put those on when I get another piece of Marauders. Even when I do get 3 pieces of Marauders, I'll probably swap out the gloves for these anyway because of that fire damage percentage. And obviously the fire damage is centered around the cluster arrow. Vengeance is physical, but with Seath, you're going to be regenerating your hatred and dumping out more cluster arrows, so the fire damage even helps with Vengeance a bit there as well. Now, I also got the Firewalkers, which I really think is great because I drop fire on the ground as I run away from mobs, and believe it or not, it does some pretty decent damage, and when you have extra fire damage, it's going to help with that. And on the Firewalkers is one of the few boots that you can get cluster arrow damage on. So that's another great opportunity to get cluster arrow damage or plus damage that's not going to be showing on your sheet, and you can actually get the Firewalkers from Kadala. They don't have to drop. They can drop, but they don't have to drop. Now, Like I said in my last video, I put the resistance gems in my slots because I feel like you get more out of resistance gems overall than you do from dexterity. I don't have the square or the better marquee diamonds in the chest piece here because I have this one, the Gar Wolf, which gives me the 3 companion wolves, which I'm waiting to put on, but obviously I cannot get this thing to roll 3 sockets while at the same time looking for the Cinder Coat. Now, the Cinder Coat is a great chest piece for us because it lowers the amount fire damage cost, so about 33% less it costs, so something around there. So accompanied with a Pride's Fall Helm, which I don't have yet either, which I'm trying to get, you can really start to throw those cluster arrows out with a lot less of a resource cost, which is really what you want to focus on doing, especially with a build like this and giving the fact that the cluster arrows hit so hard. I also happened to get the bottomless potion of the tower. I would have liked the one with the life on hit. However, this one is not bad either. It's an infinite potion. If you don't know what it is, it's basically a legendary potion that never runs out. You never have to buy or look for potions again. And it gives you a little legendary perk every time you use it by increasing your armor by 13%. Now, Diablo, we all know, is a lot different than WoW. Armor actually matters in this game, so that does give you a nice little defense when you're fighting or when you're on your last leg there. I don't know if I had this in my other video, but I picked up this belt as well. When I pick up a health globe, not only is it regenerating more of my hatred with the bracers and the passive, but it actually explodes and deals 306% weapon damage as fire, and that's when anybody picks up a health globe. It will explode by me. So when mobs are on you, or you're tumbling or vaulting towards a health globe and you roll over it to get some more hatred, you're going to do some extra damage, and it's always good to put out some extra damage. Now, I have this belt, if I could find it here, which I do use when I'm in groups or I'm in lower torment levels because it gives me higher damage and I don't need as much toughness. You only need around 5 or 6 million toughness when you're in Torment 1 and 2. You really don't need as much as 7 or 8 million like I have. That's really for the later torments. However, it's great to have this in either one. If you do get this belt, it is a great belt, but I have it somewhere here. Sorry for the delay. Here it is. So the belt I have here is the Hellcat Waistguard, and it actually increases additional 5% against elites, while also giving attack speed on the belt, which is kind of rare. And as you can see, I get another 4% damage on this, but it lowers my toughness quite significantly. So I just want to throw this on in the lower torment levels where I don't need as much toughness. However, when I do make up more toughness and able to get some other pieces that give me a little more resist or what have you, such as putting on this cloak with the gems will actually give me another 100 resist all, I might throw on this belt. But, you know, experiment. If you do get this belt to drop, experiment. You know, what's bearable for you. But if you're going to go glass cannon, I highly recommend against it. It's really just not even a fun way to play. I also got the Natalia's cloak, which puts me in a good position as well, because if I get another piece of Marauders to drop or another piece of Natalia's, I can kind of take advantage of getting the 2-set. But what is nice about the Natalia's piece, if you actually want to go for the Natalia set or look forward to that, if you have the Royal Ring, you can actually get the 3-set just by having 2 pieces on, unlike the Marauder, where you actually need 3 pieces to get the 4-set. So a little bit of a trade-off there. You might want to mix and match, you know, depending on what you find. So basically, my advice would be to focus on what drops. So if you get a good item to drop, try to gear around those items. You know, there's no guarantee, or there's no way to actually go for certain drops. So if you get a Natalia's set, or you get a Natalia's piece, try to build around that, or try to build around whatever you have and try to work with what you get as drops. Obviously, there's certain gear slots that you want toughness for and you want damage for, which I'm going to go over with you right now. But, you know, don't get discouraged because you didn't get a Marauder's item. You know, try to work with what you actually get as a drop. And with the reroll system, it's really easy to do that. Obviously fire and our fire spec is very, very good. It's probably the best spec out there right now for demon hunters, but besides fire, you definitely have a lot of room to breathe. You know, I was rocking with rares for a while, you know, and if you look at my amulet, I don't think I'll ever replace this thing. I got 99% crit damage on it and 7.5% crit chance, just rolling with what I have. So as you can see here, I have plenty of legendary necks that I would love to put on there, but they just don't give me the damage that this rare does. So, you know, mix and match, fool around, you know, and have fun with it, because now with the reroll system, gearing actually is a lot of fun, and you have the opportunity to work with anything. One last thing before I show you some gameplay is where to get toughness. Now, like I said before, I see so many demon hunters going glass cannon, and that to me is probably because they don't know where to get toughness from. They always want damage, 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 damage. But it's actually really simple. You got your belt here. You want to try to get a little resist on your belt. You know, a little life and vitality on your belt. Once in a while, you'll get a legendary that has the ability to have attack speed on it. But essentially, you want to try to get either skill damage on your belt with some life and resistance, and you want to use your gem sockets for resistance to get that toughness up, and your shoulders and your pants. And I think I said this on the last video as well. Those are great slots to get vitality, resistance, and at the same token, as you can see, throw in a little ability damage. I tried to get some Ashira's paces with an actual ability that I use, or fire damage, but in this case I couldn't, so I'm rocking with these. I'm probably going to wind up replacing these pretty soon, so I didn't want to go crazy wasting all of those legendary materials and try to recreate these. But because I have the royal ring, I was able to put the shoulders on and the pants, which is craftable, so it's an easy way to get some nice greens if you have the plan. They're not too hard to farm, and I might do a video on how to quickly farm that as well. You can actually go ahead and get the 2 and 3 set and really boost your toughness in those 2 slots right there. A helmet is a great place to get some vitality and resist. If not resist, definitely want to get crit chance, but before you get that helmet that has the crit chance, a Pride's Fall or a Marauder's Helm, you know, try to pick up some toughness on your helmet as well. The places that you want damage are going to be your gloves, your rings, your amulet, your bow, obviously, and either your quiver or your offhand if you're dual wielding one-handers, which is great right now too. If you could get a Dante's that isn't shit like mine, which frustrated me, but the bow and the quiver and, you know, your weapon slots here are great places to get some toughness too. Look, I picked up 682 vitality on my bow. I picked up nice vitality on my quiver. I was lucky enough to get the Sin Seekers, which gave me 10% crit chance and cluster arrow damage. But you get the idea. Those are where you want to focus on getting your toughness from. Also, your braces is a good place to pick up some resistance and vitality, while at the same time, if you're going for the Reaper's Wraps, you're going to pick up some cold or fire damage on those, and at the same time getting crit chance or maybe even movement speed like I have here on the Slave Bonds. And another great place to pick up vitality is obviously your boots. But you know, if you want to really maximize your damage while getting toughness on those slots, you want to kind of take something that you could get rid of. Basically, a stat that you really don't need. You want to eliminate that stat and try to put something on there like cluster arrow damage, or get a legendary that's going to give you the ability to get those skill plus damage percentages, such as the Firewalkers. Now, in closing, before I show you some gameplay, as you can see, I don't have the most crit damage because I'm not dual wielding, but you might ask, why do I only have around 42% crit chance? Well, let me tell you why. After 40 and 45% critical hit chance, your critical hit chance percentage starts to diminish. What I mean by that is your crit hit chance does not affect your sheet damage as much as it does sub 50 or 40%. So after you get over 40%, you want to start focusing on crit damage, ability damage, or elemental damage. That's where you want to go. Obviously, your first priority would be critical hit damage, and then where you can't get critical hit damage, you want to go for elemental damage, and when you can't get elemental damage, you want to go for ability damage. And that's the order. I threw my Paragon in attack speed because I feel like attack speed, even though it doesn't give you as much sheet damage as crit hit chance, you're going to increase the amount of hatred that you regenerate because you're throwing out more shots, especially on a bow where it's only 1.4. You want to try to get that up. I think I was playing around with the Paragon points. That's why it's below 2.0. Usually I'm around about 2.04 to 2.10. I'm not the highest Paragon level here either. I'm not the most hardcore player either. So for where I am with gear in just a week or two is actually really, really good given the amount of time that I play. Now without further ado, I'll show you some Torment 2 raping in just a minute. Unfortunately, there has been some problems with the Blizzard servers, I guess. Me and pretty much everybody has been freezing randomly as we play, so you'll see that happen a little bit here, so it's not going to be as smooth as I would like it to be. However, you get the idea of how the build works and how well I'm actually melting Torment 2 solo with really not the greatest gear besides the legendary item on my follower that makes him not die, which is actually pretty good. But I melt really well here. It's at a really good pace. I'm really happy where I am in terms of gear. Obviously, there's a lot of pieces that I'm trying to focus on between the Pride Fall and obviously some more Marauder pieces and the Cinder Coat. But besides that, you know, really happy with the way the class is playing and the way I'm melting in Torment 2, and you'll definitely see how quick I take down packs and also even the Rift Boss towards the end of this gameplay. And as always, if you like this video, if it helped you, give it a thumbs up, share it, really helps me out. And if you have any feedback, questions, suggestions, whatever, leave them in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.